Hello, Coldwell Banker, and Happy New Year. Thank you so much for joining us on the kickoff of 2024 Mile High View. We have an amazing panel of guests here, as well as an amazing audience at the Denver Central office. Thank you so much for being here. We have a lot to cover today, so we're going to go ahead and get this thing started. We're going to start with Amanda Snicker. Amanda is going to look at the Colorado market indicators and trends. Amanda has been a realtor for over 15 years and is an agent in our Coldwell Banker Global Luxury office and the vice chair of the Market Trends Committee at the Denver Board of Realtors. Hi, Amanda. Hi. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
A lot of action in 2023 with the market. Some good, some maybe challenging.
A little bit.
Yes, so the 2023 projections versus reality.
Yeah.
Let's take a look back at what we had predicted in 2023 compared to how we ended.
We were pretty optimistic.
Yes, we were. Yes, it's what we do.
I mean, our projections showed declines, but we still were pretty optimistic.
Okay. So you're gonna tell us how we ended.
Yes.
Beautiful.
Yeah. All right. So this is the year-to-date data for all of 2023 for the Denver metro area. This includes 11 counties that we're looking at. And our first projection for last year from our Market Trends Committee was that we would see a decrease in the number of closed transactions from 8 to 13%, let's call it 10, decline of 10% in closed transactions. I don't think my mic is working. Is that what this means? Okay. We actually saw about an 18% decrease in the number of closed transactions. So if you're looking at this graph here, or this table here, it's the third line down under year to date. So we were down about 17.66%, if you want to be
specific.
About it.
Yeah, there we go.
I'm going to round it up to 18. So that was our first prediction that we were off by about half, half of what it ended up being. We also had projected a decrease in the sale price of 4 to 6%, which this actually turned out better because we ended up seeing a decrease of 1.7%. So our prices held more stable than we had expected coming into this. We had a little bit more, a better balance between this buyer demand and the amount of inventory we had than we had originally thought would happen. And so our prices held a little bit more stable.
Great. Good news on
that was good. Yes. So we're all good to see that. We did see this as a median closed price for attached and detached, and we normally see a fluctuation throughout the year of prices increasing in the spring and early summer and then kind of tapering back off into the fall, and it was just pretty flat all year.
Okay.
So our other projection was that inventory would be low, and that was also true, that inventory was going to be continuing to be low. We've been having a trend year after year after year of just fewer listings entering the market, and we knew that it was going to be low again this year or in 2023 because so many people had such low interest rates and so many people had just bought a house. Like if you're in the trend of living in a home for 10 years, you don't need to move, you just bought one. Mm-hmm. So there was the combination of that. And so we do have lower inventory. If you're looking at this, they can see these tables, right? So the inventory at month's end has started to increase just because properties are staying on the market longer. But the total number of new listings entering the market, we had about 49,000 that came in. And the previous year we had 60,000. So the previous year where we had low inventory, we were down another 4.5% from that. And we're actually down about 30% from what we had in 2019.
Okay.
Yep. So if we look at this, I have one right here. It's just kind of the cycle of new inventory entering the market, how we go each year. This goes back to 2014. And you can see the cycle that we have each year of inventory increasing and decreasing throughout the year.
So the inventory patterns pretty much stay the same.
They do, but you can see in 2023 how low that total inventory that entered the market we had. So we had buyers that wanted to participate in the market. They just had to be so patient because they would see the 5 houses that came on the market, and if they didn't like them, they had to wait another couple weeks for the 5 more to come back on.
Okay.
Yep. And then I think the oh, sorry. This was where we were the most optimistic, was interest rates. That many experts had projected that we would be in the 5.5% range by the fall of 2023. And I don't know where they got that, other than that it just made you feel good.
Yeah, it did.
because
It
we
made
were
us.
like,
It made us
"Oh, yeah,
all.
like,
We all felt better.
because we all know that magic number is 5.5%. That's what's going to get the sellers off the sidelines, and the buyers are going to be able to have an affordable housing option. So I don't know. I think it was a little bit of, we just wanted that to be really true, because it certainly was not. And actually things got worse as the year went on instead of better, topping out around 8% in October. And then we had that drastic decline in November and December, which stirred a lot of activity in those last 2 months of the year. So I think we missed that mark a little bit.
Well, we do like to be optimistic.
We do. And
Right.
honestly, if you're not going to survive.
Yes, we had a conversation about that earlier. You know, we
Yes.
tend to be optimistic in
We
sales.
do.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So predictions,
Predictions for
crystal ball type
Yeah.
predictions, wishful thinking, more optimism. What do we got, Amanda?
yeah, I mean, I think this year we're probably a little bit more realistic in our projections of this, and some of it is just we didn't know. We were coming off of such a high intensity through the COVID years
Sure.
that we're all saying we're just going to look back at 2019 and see how everything compares to that. But we're even down 30% from inventory in 2019. So how do you work in a market where we just continually have less opportunity for our buyers? And as a listing agent, you have less opportunity to list a home.
Sure.
So I think we're just going to see a little bit of the same this year. I don't think that we will see a flood of inventory enter the market. I do think we'll see interest rates stabilize and possibly come down a little bit, but I don't know that it will be notable enough to pull people off the sidelines. Interest rates only. They will come off the sidelines if they have other
Sure.
lifestyle factors that are happening that are encouraging them to move. But I think there's a lot of opportunity for us within this industry to kind of get back to understanding how the market functions normally. I don't know. I've been in the market for 15 years and I don't know that I've ever had a normal market.
I don't know that that is a thing, really.
I know, we
like
keep saying it.
Yes.
Like, oh, it's going to be normal. We
Sure.
have no idea what
no,
that means.
No, it's just
Yeah.
the market, right? It's different and challenging, and we should just get rid of that normal.
Totally. Yeah, it makes
Normal
us feel
word,
better.
yes.
But I think, too, we've probably seen the worst of the real estate market. I think we're going to kind of ride out here for a little while, but I think the change and the drastic abruption to the market has happened. I think the rest of the economy might see more of that recession type dip, and we'll see indicators for that. But I think the real estate market has done their shifting.
Okay. Well,
so-
okay. Well, we'll hold you to that if that's okay.
in next
Okay,
year.
we'll check in next year for sure. Switching gears a little bit, how do we prepare our clients for 2024?
Yes. So I have this graph here that shows the median and average close price over the last 10 years. And I think what happened a little bit, we had coming out of the 2008 recession, which took a long time, a lot of years to get us back into a healthy real estate market here. But once that happened, people saw a ton of appreciation in their homes. And then it slowed down for a little bit, but was still a very healthy growth. And then we had COVID and it just exploded.
Yes.
And so there's a little bit of unrealistic expectations that I think some homeowners have as far as how their housing asset functions for them within their greater portfolio of investments and monetary wealth growth. So I think on some level, we have to get back to the basics of housing. You need somewhere to live. It's a place for you to raise your family. It's a place for you to build memories. And you can't always quantify that on a line item of your budget.
Sure.
And yes, housing grows over time, but you have to be patient. And so it's hard for our younger buyers that are like, oh, I want it to go up 10 or 20% a year. And it just doesn't normally do that.
Yes, true.
And so we're looking at this is a long-term investment for people, and there's just so much more to the home purchase than price and like your interest rate, and those are all important because that's how you afford what you're purchasing. But it's not the entire equation. And so getting people a little more into why do you want to be a homeowner?
Sure.
And what is important to you? And yes, we want this to grow over time, but what does that need to look like for you for this to work in your greater plans?
No, I think that's really great advice because we know that it's always about a lifestyle change when people decide to do something in real estate. No one says, oh, our family's getting bigger, but what's the interest rate? Like if we can't fit into our house, we're going to make a decision.
Right.
And when we're downsizing. So great advice to take people back to the motivation as to the lifestyle reason that they're looking to either buy or sell. So that's really great advice. Anything else for us?
I think that we've all had a wild couple of years. And I think if you're still here, I think that's really great. And we've all learned a lot. And as a profession, I think we've grown and had to learn some new things about our industry and about how we function. And I think that is really great going forward.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I do have one question for you that's not on my list.
No. Yes.
What is the one thing that you learned in 2023 that you're taking with you in 2024 in real estate?
Oh, that is a tough question. I would probably have to say some patience.
Okay.
The entire time I've been in real estate, it has just been firing like real hot. And especially the last few years, you just get into like just putting out fires and then being able to kind of sit back and think about how you want your business to run and how you communicate that differently with your sellers once properties are sitting on the market a little bit longer of like, we all just need to take a deep breath and kind of be a little bit more strategic about what we're doing.
Okay. Wonderful. Thank you so much. Thanks, Amanda. That was really great information. We'll hold you to all of those predictions and we'll follow up, I don't know, 3 months, 4 months? Okay. All right. Thank you so much. Next up, we have Greg Bachelor with Real Property Management.
Hi,
Let's give a big warm welcome, studio audience, to Greg Bachelor.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here. Thanks for having me.
So, for a reminder, you're the owner of Real Property Management.
I am.
Yes,
That is a
and-
true rumor.
Yes, and you've been a great partner with Coldwell Banker for almost 16 years, I believe.
Correct.
So thank you for all that you bring to our company. So lots of legislative changes, rules, laws, all of that fun stuff. So no more plastic bags.
No more plastic bags.
That's right.
Nope.
So, and we have some pet
We do.
things about rentals.
Yes.
So what else?
So yeah, when our last legislative session got done, last May, June, there were a number of initiatives that took place in August, and we've chatted through some of those. Those are now being implemented regarding applications and prohibited leases and prohibited terms and clauses in leases. But now there's a whole new round that just went into effect January the 1st. And some of them are pet ownership, what you can charge for pet rent, pet fees are now no longer allowed. Deposits on a pet rent have to be refundable, assuming that the pet did no damage. So that's changed. One of the nice things there is now allowed starting January 1st that you can remotely participate in eviction proceedings, so you don't have to show up to the courthouse. That's quite delightful. And then the last one that just went into effect, which is kind of interesting. It's a database now for any properties that have been used as an illegal drug lab now have to be recorded for a period of 5 years. So those three things all just kicked in January 1st.
Okay, so if I heard you correctly, you said illegal drug lab.
Yes.
Do you want to maybe define that a little
Oh gosh, that is a good question. So the first thing that obviously comes to mind when most people think of that is methamphetamine. So
Sure.
that is the one thing that people can cook in your dryer and your whatever the case may be. And so it has to be remediated. There's processes and procedures that go along with that. So anything that would be illegal. So obviously in Colorado, let's take marijuana, for instance, not an illegal, it's perfectly legal. So that is not going to be classified, but methamphetamines, other usage, that's where they're going to get.
Okay.
That's going to be problematic.
Okay. Thanks.
Yeah, gladly.
Sure. So what's the latest on the apartment market?
Oh.
I know we're still seeing cranes and buildings and lots of special deals going on out there for rentals and apartments. So
Yes, great question. So we're obviously here at Denver Central. And so one of the things that has been easy to look at for years, there have been cranes outside of these beautiful windows in this beautiful landscape for years. Amanda and I and Elliot were just looking out the window and you can see one crane right now, which is pretty telling because there have been times when you've been able to see 7 to 10
Sure.
cranes, and what sits under most of those is an apartment building. So what's transpiring with that is because there's so much building that has gone on, builders are finally starting to realize, oh shoot, we've overbuilt. So for instance, building permits up and down the Front Range, they're down about half right now. So vacancy rates are up. There's a lot of incentives that the apartments world, multifamily world, is now having to throw out in the marketplace to try to incent people to come to their multifamily versus another multifamily. And there's so much of that going on right now. So we're beginning to see on a lot of, say, 12-month leases, 1 free month rent. Take an 18-month lease, I'll give you 2 months rent. Do a 2-year lease, 3 free months rent. So when you begin to see those kind of incentives out in the marketplace, that's telling the story. There is just too much supply and not enough demand. So we're vacancy rates going up, rental prices coming down.
all right. So are you seeing any of those incentives on your end with investors and
It's a great question.
single family?
Yeah, it's a great question. So single family continues to be the strongest of the categories right now. So our vacancy rates, for instance, on most of our family portfolio is about 3 to 4%. The apartment community is double plus of that. And so are there incentives out in the marketplace on the single family home side? There obviously are, because right now we have about double the amount of inventory on the rental side that we normally do in January of any year. So we just don't quite have the demand. And then some homes that people just have really low interest rates, or they tried selling and it didn't sell at a price point that they wanted. Now it's gone into the rental market. And so it's added rental inventory, rental supply without the corresponding demand to go with it.
Okay, wonderful. So predictions, because I'm holding everyone to this. Just so you know, I have somebody writing it down.
We always love predictions. I love that. I think we're going to see in 2024, a lot of it is going to be contingent on what interest rates do. Amanda and I were talking about this earlier. If interest rates do get in that range, there's definitely some pent up supply that is sitting there where investors would like to sell, but they just know it's not the right time. If interest rates do come down and it opens up, I think we'll begin to see a lot of sell off in the rental world.
Sure.
That will obviously then bring inventory down. There will be fewer rental price, and I think rental prices will begin to climb again.
Okay, now the big question.
The big question.
Big question is, our beautiful state still a great place to invest?
Oh, it is still such a great place. So a couple of components. We still have net population growth into the marketplace. It's not what it once was. So if we go back to 2014, 15, maybe up through 17, we had years that we had net population growth into the Front Range. Well, the whole state of Colorado, but primarily the Front Range, about 100,000, even a couple of years, 120,000. We're now down to about 15 to 20,000 net population growth in. So people still want to live here more than people don't. Are we having some longtime Coloradans say, yeah, please sell my house. It's time for me to move. I want to move to other markets. So we will see. The Front Range, though, is still a great place to invest. And a large part of it is people still want to live here. They love the mountains. They love the lifestyle. It's still a great place. Investors with cash are doing incredibly well right now. As we've seen prices start to taper off a little bit, it's creating great opportunities. And they're obviously investors with cash. Interest rate is more irrelevant. It's more thinking through an opportunity cost versus what's my interest rate.
Okay. Are you seeing more investment on the fringe areas outside of Denver?
We are.
You know, I know that we talked about Greeley, Fort Collins,
Yes.
Eastern Colorado, so we're still seeing more investment out there.
Still seeing a lot of that, yes. And especially with gas prices hanging to in a more logical place, if you will. We won't use the term normal. We'll just call it logical
Yes,
for the time
logical.
being.
Yes.
When gas prices are at 250-ish, people will consider a longer commute. When gas prices are at 4 and 450-ish, now you're talking a different ball game. That long commute is suddenly problematic to the family budget.
Okay. Any other words of wisdom for us, Greg?
Love Colorado. Love the opportunity for investors to succeed in Colorado. Real estate has always been a long-term game. It always will be. So there's a saying that says the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is today. And I think that is very apropos for investments in Colorado. Real estate goes up and to the right, may have its bumps, may have its tops and its bottoms. It always will, but it always goes up and to the right.
Okay. Thank you so much. I'm hearing
for having me.
patience again.
Yes.
Patience. Wonderful.
Plenty of that.
Let's give Greg a round of applause. Thank you so much for being with
Great to be here.
us.
Thanks.
Wonderful.
My pleasure.
All right. So our next guest, as we move chairs,
Yeah, musical chairs.
musical chairs. Our next guest really needs no introduction. Mr. Lane Lyon is the managing broker of our Denver Central office right here and our Global Luxury office, as well as our Global Luxury ambassador and the 9 News real estate expert.
That's a lot of.
It is a lot. Do you feel super tired right now?
And on Mile High View.
Oh,
This
and
is
on Mile High
exciting.
View,
Well,
yes.
Thank you for having me on your show. This is awesome.
Well, absolutely.
I'm excited.
I love that you called it a show. It makes me feel excited.
Oh, is it not a show? Studio audience? Oh my God. Welcome to Denver Central, I should say, by the way. We're happy
Yes.
to have the show here.
Yes, absolutely.
Nice to see all of you at home, too.
So talk to us a little bit about what went on in the luxury market in 2023.
Oh, I'll tell you what. I think of it as the tale of two markets. When you start thinking about what happened here in the Denver metro area as it relates to the high-end market, which consists of a lot of consumers and high net worth individuals that were a little bit shielded from the interest rate situation, some of the challenges, we'll say. So we actually, at the Global Luxury office, saw quite a bit of activity, I would say. Amanda's there with us at Global Luxury. And what we found was there was a little bit of a shift in business for agents this year. It was, let's start working on some of our clients that we know aren't as impacted as much by the interest rates. So we found ourselves with buyers and sellers who were able to work with cash. They were leveraging other investments so they could pay cash and avoid some of the interest rate challenges. And we also saw a good number of off-market sales happening in the higher end here in the Denver area. I found that interesting and noteworthy. And as I talked to agents, what I heard time and time again is, well, my clients really don't want to have the interior of their home. They tend to be a little bit more private, blasted out onto the internet. And in fact, I would rather have you as my luxury agent use your network of other luxury agents to help sell my home. So we did have some help this year with RE Colorado and the new private exclusive option.
Yes.
So that we can be in compliance with clear cooperation and be sensitive to fair housing issues. But more and more, we were seeing off-market transactions happening. And certainly those relationships with other luxury agents really made a difference there. So overall, Tammy, I would say that the high-end or the luxury market was not as slow as other price points. However, there is certainly a sensitivity to what's happening in the marketplace. A lot of high net worth individuals are certainly plugged into what's going on in the economy, and there's cautious optimism all the way around for sure.
Probably a more focus on stock market, those investments in our luxury
And their
space.
own companies
Sure.
and how inflation is affecting their businesses as well.
Wonderful. So what's the outlook for the high-end market in 2024?
We have a lot of crystal balls out.
We do.
here. I
You
must
know,
say on my
I should have.
view
We should
today.
have one.
Like right in front of us.
Yes.
Well, I would say there's no question that there is optimism with our luxury agents looking at our high-end market here in the Denver area. Certainly, one thing we know for sure is that as interest rates started to fall, I know I stay close to Amanda's writing and the market trends I know that she made a note in December that with the interest rates, even though I just was talking a little bit about how we have the luxury market not quite as impacted by the interest rate challenges, we did see a uptick of activity when the interest rates came down as well, even in the high end. So we'll be paying attention there. I think that there's no doubt there will be a continued expectation for top shelf level service and marketing. And that falls squarely in line with what we offer here at Coldwell Banker, and our global luxury agents are really ready to deliver that level of service. Photos, for example, that are magazine grade quality. When we talk about exposure for luxury property in and around the Denver area, we're talking about marketing to an audience that goes well beyond Colorado and international. And the nice thing about our global luxury program is that we're able to leverage other tools and resources so that we can get that marketing out there. Relationships will be really important in 2024. As I mentioned this last year, we were leveraging those relationships to find where the inventory was and to find those buyers. So certainly working that as well. And I'm going to say technology will also be important. This is a tech savvy area to be mindful of as well. I can tell you that I found it interesting that one of the top selling or the highest selling properties in Colorado last year was 14.7 million in the Golden area. And the seller, the listing agent, was able to tell during a conversation recently that she believes that the buyer was found through an Instagram post. So even though we're leveraging all types of technology in the highest end of products and quality, social media is important. And I'm reminded by Nathan Zeter, who spoke to us at our experience, which we can talk a little bit about as well, who said, oftentimes people want to see you before they buy you. They really want to know what you're up to. So if you're in the luxury area, they want to be able to look you up and see what you're up to. And so social media will play an important role in 2024 as well in terms of industry professionals for sure.
It also creates that larger marketing footprint.
100%.
So it's everything. It's doing it all the things.
We're going to be doing more social this year than ever, I believe, and it's in all price points.
Great, wonderful.
Yep.
Okay, so what's your advice for agents looking to increase their average sales price, step into the luxury space?
Well, 100%, you need to understand that as we've seen equity and value grow in the Denver area, the average sales prices have come up. And I can tell you, when I got into the business 10 plus years ago, the luxury areas were way far away and way outside of my reach and way more expensive than I would ever sell. And the truth is, when we're looking at average sales price in the Denver metro area that's approaching $700,000, we're all going to be going to listing appointments that are over $1 million. So the more that you can leverage with our global luxury program, the better. So I'm a big fan, obviously, as you know, of the tools and resources that we provide. So I would say, number one, talk to your manager and your success coach about getting into the global luxury program. How to qualify. It's a certifying program. When you go to listing appointments, you're able to say that you are certified to sell luxury properties. That carries some weight for sure.
Sure, absolutely.
I want to talk trends too before I go.
Oh,
Tammy.
please.
Is that okay?
Of course.
Because this is fun.
Can I just interrupt you 1 second?
Oh,
Like,
of course.
this is so fun to interview the interviewer. It's a bit.
I got a few questions for you
It's a
before
bit.
you go.
It's a bit. Just so you know, it's a bit intimidating to be interviewing my news real estate expert. But you know, we're doing great.
Well, I was worried I was getting short on my time, but
Oh,
I didn't want to have to
no.
go without mentioning something
Yes.
that I think is an awesome resource. We've got it behind us here. This is called Global Luxury Best of the Best. And if you have not seen this, I encourage everyone to go on and take a look what our Coldwell Banker Global Luxury marketing team is putting together out there. And it's cbglbestofthebest.com. And one of the articles that they posted in the inaugural edition here, and this is, by the way, this is curated lifestyle, very shoppable. You can buy high-end products and a lot of luxury trends out there. And so I was captivated by what some of the trends are for 2024 that I wanted to share with you. Okay, so 200 global luxury agents across the country kind of weighed in on what the trends are for luxury living. So let's start with the kitchen.
Okay.
You're a little bit of a cook. I know you like a nice kitchen. Double duty kitchen islands are the leading feature in luxury properties right now. 2 islands.
2 islands.
Yeah, so we want to
Okay.
entertain, we want to prep, and we want to do it all in the kitchen. So we all know that's where people hang out. So let's be ready for that.
How large are these double duty
Oh,
islands?
bigger the better. Wouldn't you
yeah.
guys say? Wouldn't you guys say? Designer appliances, obviously statement range hoods. There's a lot of focus on the kitchen when it comes to high-end property, for sure.
Okay.
Kitchens and baths sell homes. So I want
Yes,
to go
they
to
do.
the, I want to
Yes,
go to
they
the
do.
bath next,
Yes,
right?
okay.
Wellness is super important. So what we see happening as far as trends in the high end, true spa-like baths. I think all agents tend to talk about a spa-like bath. Well, when we look about high end, we really want to feel
Really?
like we're at the spa. So leading the trends is going to be a freestanding soaking tub. Sound pretty good?
It sounds amazing. In fact, I got stuck on this website in the bathtub area.
Okay,
And I'm like,
yeah.
how do you spend like that much money on a bathtub? But if it's spa-like,
You've got to have it.
go.
You got to have
Okay.
it. Also, hydrotherapy showers sounds wonderful. Designated treatment rooms attached to your spa-like bath.
Okay.
So you can bring your masseur or your masseuse right to your home and head right on in. Heated floors, heated towel racks. Creating that spa experience at home is really important. Coming out of COVID, we know the luxury consumer is into wellness, as many of us are. So really, it's the old adage, kitchen and bath sell homes, and it's definitely in the high end as well.
well, thank you for sharing. That's very interesting and
Well,
fun. And I'm going to go back on the website
And get that nice soaker tub
and get
you were
that
looking
nice
at,
soaker
right?
tub. Yes, absolutely.
Wow.
Absolutely.
Thank you for having me on.
Okay, Lane. Your big question.
Anything else for me?
Yeah. Anything else from you? And what
Yes.
did you learn in 2023 that you're taking with you in 24?
Okay, what I learned in 2023 is that really the cream rises to the top. It does. The agents that work hard, stay focused, and have an intentional plan to follow are the ones that did the best in 2023. Amanda's proof of that. She really had a clear plan of what she wanted to accomplish. So I know that in case after case after case, it was sticking to the game plan. And when the discouraging thoughts come in, it's all about staying on the right path there. Tammy, if I could say one thing, we all know this. Real estate is about 10% selling real estate, 90% believing you can. And 2023 was a real test of that 90%.
Yes.
So thanks for hanging in there, and we're certainly optimistic about what's coming our way.
Thank you so much, Lane.
You got
big
it.
round of applause.
Thank you so much.
for Mr. Lane Lyon.
Let's bring on our star of the show.
Yes, absolutely.
I'm going to give this to you and this to you.
Musical chairs.
You
here
got
we
it.
go.
You got it.
I am super thrilled to have Dr. Elliot Eisenberg joining us today to talk about the Colorado economy
Yeah.
and his 2024 predictions for what we're going
Oh,
to
boy.
see. There we go. Elliot is an international acclaimed economist and
Oh.
public speaker specializing in making economics fun, relevant, and entertaining. Known as the Bow Tie Economist and creator of the weekly economic blogs, please welcome Dr. Elliot Eisenberg and Laughs and Graphs.
Thank you. It's
Yes.
a pleasure to be here.
Yes.
Thank you.
Now, are you going to sit down and do this, or?
I'm going to try and sit
Okay,
the whole time.
okay.
I am going to try and sit.
So those Elliot fans out there know that Elliot usually gets up and gets the audience charged. So we're going to see how this goes. Okay, so here's just, the general, how's the economy?
The economy is surprisingly good. I think, I'm not sure which one of us here talked about early predictions and how the economy would be. I think it was you. It turned out to be a lot better than we thought. A lot of economists thought there was going to be a recession in 23. I think there may be one in 24, but there certainly was not one in 23. And you can look at the lines here. Oddly enough, if you look here carefully, you can see 2 quarters of bad growth in 22, the first half of 22, but there was no recession. It was just weird one-off things, just like the last quarter, Q3, which is really high at 4.9% GDP. Economy's good. People are spending their brains out. They have excess COVID money. They got pent-up demand. Taylor Swift, they want to see 4 times. I'm going to Aspen. The hotel nights are $2,000 a night. People are clearly happy to spend money. Yes, it's a good economy, surprisingly strong in 23.
Yeah, you have to have a reservation wherever you go.
Pretty much, that's right.
Yes. Okay. Why is it doing so well?
All right, there are a whole bunch of reasons, but first
Okay.
let's see again. This is the outcome. The economy's good. This is consumer spending. There appears to be no drag. There's nothing. We're happy spending our brains out. And why is this the case? The major reason, I think, is there's pent-up demand, as we mentioned earlier. People are borrowing more money on their credit cards, saving less money from disposable income, but most importantly, excess COVID savings. We plan to travel somewhere in 20. We plan to travel somewhere in 21. We got a stimmy check. We got a PPP loan, whatever it was, and we're running the money down as the graph shows. And by the end of maybe Q1 or early Q2, we'll be out. But there's still money in the tank. There's still enthusiasm, pent-up demand, and that's keeping consumption strong.
All right. What are you so happy about right now?
I'm happy about a couple of things. There's a lot of things to be happy. Inflation's coming down quite rapidly, which is a really good thing. The Fed's going to lower rates in 24. That's a good thing. I think home inventories are going to go up. But look here, this is oil prices. And with the exception of looking back here with the Russian invasion of Ukraine, oil prices have been really quite quiescent. U.S. is producing a lot more oil. Brazil's producing more oil. Guyana's producing. So even though the Saudis and the Russians are producing less, oil prices aren't doing much of anything, and that's been drawing energy prices down, allowing us to have some stability in that source. So that's been a lovely, wonderful thing. And most importantly, as this graph shows, no matter how you measure it, inflation, whether it's core inflation, excluding food and energy in red, which isn't bouncing around very much, or blue, which is headline, including food and energy, which bounces around quite a lot, it's all coming down. The Fed will be lowering rates. That's something to be very happy for after a year and a half or 2 years of largely rate increases.
Yes, even though we were optimistic.
And the rate may take longer than we think for the rates to come down. The market's hoping for 6 cuts. I think 3 or 4. 3 is more likely, unless we have a recession, then they'll cut rates a lot.
Okay.
So hopefully we don't get rate cuts for that reason, just declining inflation.
Okay. And so what are you not so thrilled about?
Oh, a couple things.
Okay.
First, banks aren't lending. This graph shows the percentage of bank lenders, so loan officers and banks, and what percentage of them are making it harder to borrow money. And as the graph shows behind me, you can see it here. It's pretty high, about 30% or whatever it is. Bank loan officers saying it's harder. This happens to be commercial industrial loans, but you could look at it for CRE loans or signature loans or whatever. And the problem is when that many, the percentage is that high, look here, recession, and so on. This is designed. When rates go up, banks become nervous because the likelihood of bankruptcies and defaults and losing jobs goes higher, businesses go south, and so on. So this is a concern of mine. There's no question. This is a harbinger of not such great things. Next thing is firms they're reluctant to invest in plant and in equipment. This graph shows equipment. And you can see the blue line, which is inflation adjusted. It's trending down. Not trending down by trillions of dollars by any stretch of the imagination, but it's coming down. So firms are saying, rates are higher, prospects aren't so great, maybe there's a recession, they'll keep rates higher for longer. Let's hold off on any sort of investment. So that makes me a little nervous, as does this graph. I want you to look specifically at the auto loans in green and credit cards in blue, and you can see they're now higher than they were before COVID began. They're not painfully high, but they're going up. So we see some households are clearly starting to have trouble. If unemployment goes up or rates stay higher for longer, it'll be more. So there's some creakiness occurring in the economy, I think is the best way to describe it.
Okay, wonderful. So what about monetary and fiscal policy?
That's this graph, this chart.
Okay.
Lots of charts and graphs. I apologize. That's just
It's laughs and graphs with
it
Elliot.
is.
Yes.
A lot of laughs here so far.
Okay, no laughs.
You have to ask me
We're holding-
nicer. Oops, you have to ask me nicer
Oh,
questions.
okay,
I'm blaming
okay.
you. I feel like I'm a victim here, actually. But what's going on here in monetary policies is not so great. So in 23, we had very stimulative fiscal policy because the budget deficit got much bigger. But monetary policy was tight because the Fed was raising rates. Okay, cool. Now in 24, we see fiscal policy becoming slightly contractionary because the budget deficit's not going to be going up. It's going to come down a little bit. And the impact, the lagged effect of monetary policy is now hitting us full front. So the combination, look at the yellow line. It's a little hard to see, but it goes from here, mild drag on GDP, to a much bigger drag on GDP. So monetary policy and fiscal policy are both pulling GDP down, making 24 a harder year. It's unlikely to be as good as 23 precisely because of this.
Okay. So let's talk a little bit about the labor market.
That's a great question. Okay, the labor market is the most important
Okay.
market in the economy. As long as people feel confident in their job, they're going to get a pay raise, keep their job, the business is growing, expanding, they're happy, they spend money, and as a result, corporations invest in expansion and hire more people and so on. So that's critical. Unemployment goes up, we got a problem. So here's wage growth. This is my first concern about labor market. It's too good at some level. It's too good.
Okay.
Look at this graph. This graph shows earnings, year-over-year earnings growth. It's right now it's 4.1. It actually went up last month, but call it 4.1. Pre-COVID, COVID is here, the short 2-month recession of COVID. Right around here, it was about 3% year over year, a little less, a little more, whatever. Ignore the far left. We were coming out of the housing bust and unemployment was very high, so it's not meaningful. We have to get that number that's currently about 4 down to roughly 3.25. That's a ways to go. To get that down, I'm afraid we may have to bump unemployment up and keep rates higher for longer or have them come down slower than we think. Because if wages stay at this rate of 4%, we can't get inflation back down to the Fed's desired level of 2. That's the problem with the labor market going on.
Okay.
And here's the unemployment rate. And what concerns me here, so far it's good. Don't get me wrong here. There's no exhibited problems in the labor market yet. Wages are going up a little too fast. But here's unemployment. If you look at unemployment, what you see on the far right here is unemployment starting to go up. It's starting to rise. If you look at this graph, every time it starts to go up, it goes up. It doesn't go up a little and then come down. Hopefully this time is different. We haven't had a pandemic in 100 years. There's pent-up demand and all kinds of weird things. And new home construction is pretty strong, and demand for cars is strong, and so on. So there are different things that are going on this situation and others. But note, history is telling us that when unemployment starts to go up, it goes up. That makes me nervous. So the labor market's making me edgy, I would say. That's
Okay.
the thing that's going on in the labor market,
Okay.
right?
So let's talk about housing, our favorite topic.
We've had some discussion of housing already.
Just a little.
We've had multifam, single fam, luxury, and more. So I'm not sure how much there's left for me to cover, quite frankly, but I'll try and think up something new. And I think the themes I'm going to bring up are probably very similar to what's already come up. The big problem here is inventory. This data shows the number of units. So 500 is 500,000, 1,000 is 1,000,000 units on the left-hand side. You can see there's just nothing to buy, and you've all complained about nothing to sell. People you want to buy a house, you have to wait another month to see 5 houses, and they're ugly and they're awful and they're overpriced and whatever. So this problem isn't going to go away magically in 24. What I suspect will happen, if we're lucky, is inventory goes up a little. It won't go up a lot. It's not going to be what it was in 2019, right? Not going to happen.
No.
But if it goes up, 5, 10%, that would be okay. So it's a little better, but not a lot better. And the problem here is interest rates. No one wants to put their home on the market because they've got a 3%, 400-year mortgage. So they're not going to sell. Unless they have octuplets or something, they're not in the mood to move.
Yes, octuplets and
Whatever.
400-year
400-year mortgages. Yeah,
mortgage.
literally. Okay,
Yes.
maybe I'm lying.
Yes, okay. No,
But inventory is the driving problem that we've got, and that's a result of the interest rate gap between what people are paying on their mortgage now and what they would pay if they were to move. And one of you guys mentioned earlier, 5.5%. I think is the magic number. We don't know what the magic number is, but we know it's meaningfully lower than what it was certainly in October when it hit 8%.
Sure.
Right. So, but there's a blessing going on at the same time, and that's that prices continue to rise. Had I told you 2 years ago, just one data point, interest rates 8%, you would have said housing market really bad, home prices
Down.
nosediving. Didn't happen because there's no supply. So the fact there's no supply is making it very hard to sell houses on one hand, but it's making the houses that sell for more money. And you can see it back here on the very far right with the red arrow. So that's how home price increases. The only time home prices have declined in the last couple of years was a few months, 6 or 7 months, when the Fed began to raise rates in 22, when we thought the housing market was going to go south, but it didn't happen because of a lack of inventory. So the housing market's very, very strange. It's something we've never seen before, right? And if we look at it more, this is the manifestation when it comes to realtors having a tough time. And we talk about, we've talked earlier, and I said I think there's a recession, a mild, short recession coming. But I don't think it's important for our viewers. because we've already experienced a recession in this industry. Look at the sales activity. It was in 22, it skyrockets and hits close to 7 million units seasonally adjusted annualized rate. And then Omicron comes a year later, and again it hits 6.5 million. That's a booming market. And then rates start to rise, and sales now fall to under 4 million. This is a real recession in housing. I mean, earlier on, a number of us talked about how do we define a recession. I'm not sure there's no official definition of recession when it comes to real estate, but in my mind, when you're below 4 million units, you are certainly in a recession in housing. 24 will not be worse. The worst has occurred. The months of October, November, these months of 3.79 million, 3.83 million, that's the worst it gets. It's only going to get better. We can argue how much.
Sure.
But it's going to get better.
Can you say that part again?
It will get better. Will get better. You want me to say that again?
Yeah, say it one more time.
Will get better. Right.
Awesome.
And you can see this is a very strange slide too. Just as you would not have expected home prices to appreciate with interest rates being that high, you similarly would not have expected home construction to do well. But because there's no inventory, not only did prices go up, but single-family construction here in red, on the far right, you can see it's going up. Or is this permits? Permits are going up. So home builders are planning to build more homes because there aren't enough single-family homes for sale on the market, because the gap between the current rate that they're paying and the rate they would pay is so high.
Sure.
So it's important to make sure to consider this market. If you're looking to sell houses as a realtor and you want to increase your business, talk to home builders. And if you aren't expert in that market, and maybe it's a little different in mortgages and this and that and timing and when's the home going to be finished and get the C of O, get familiar with that lingo so that you can become a realtor and sell these houses, because the percentage of these houses, the houses that are for sale, that's very, very strong. The number of homes for sale that's new is now something like 25%, whereas historically it was closer to 10 or 12%.
Okay.
So it's double. So if you're not looking at the new home market, you're missing an opportunity.
Okay. Great advice. Okay, let's see. Where are we on our slides here?
I
Oh,
think
existing home sales.
We could talk maybe, if I can get to the slide. Oh, here we go.
Sure, there we go. Okay. So I have the question, and what has the response been? I don't know.
I'm not sure either. Oh, I can have a look at my notes. What do we got? What's the response? Oh, I'm not sure. I'm not sure, but I don't know. Let's ignore that one.
Let's just ignore that.
Let's talk about this one.
Okay.
We're winging it a little bit here.
Yeah, that's perfect. I got all into. I think the home builder side is very interesting.
That was the response. I think
And
that was the
so-
response. The response was, there's not enough homes in the market, prices are high. So lack of homes, high prices, builders say, I'm going to go at it. And what have builders done? Builders have said to themselves, we're going to lower the price of the house, we're going to shrink the size of the house,
Yes.
to make the price lower, and then we're going to go get a 2-1 buy down. So we're going to lower the rate of the mortgage 2% the first year, 1% the second year. And that's how builders are able to compete with existing homes. And that, as a realtor, you've got to be ready to sell these houses.
Are we seeing any supply shortages in building materials? I know that was a thing for a while.
That's a great question, and the answer is much less.
Okay.
But there's still one big problem. And the big problem is electrical equipment. Not stoves and heaters, but more wiring into the building and heavy up and voltage meters and that kind of stuff. And the backups in many of these cases is 40, 50, 60 weeks. And the problem is this industry is a boom or bust industry. It has ups and downs. And these firms that manufacture this stuff, they don't want to invest and build more plant and equipment because they'll build it and there'll be a recession and they'll lose their shirt. So it's going to take a weaker construction activity to get that time delay down from 60 weeks down to 10 or 5 or whatever it was before COVID began. But electrical stuff is the single biggest problem holding builders up.
Okay. What about the trades? Is there still a shortage?
Oh, that's a bad problem. And that's problem only going to get worse. The number of electricians and plumbers and bricklayers and roofers and so on that is aging out. They're retiring. And we don't have enough youngsters coming in. We have not done a good job as a country convincing people that there are tremendous opportunities in carpentry and plumbing, electricity, glazers, whatever, that people don't want to go into this industry. And we've had historically the last number of years not enough immigration, because immigrants often are willing to do this work, and often they're very skilled at it, but we haven't. Last year was an exception. We had great immigration, but we're shortage of immigration, so to speak. So we're struggling on labor. And as a result, unemployment in construction is very, very low. So this is a nagging problem that will persist.
Okay.
Sorry for that bad news. I will not repeat it again.
No, it's okay. I'm not going to say.
I'm not going to say nagging problem that will
We're not going
persist.
to say that part again. No, we're not going to say that.
No, no.
No. So, do you think builders will ever catch up? I know that we've talked about that year after year, how they've been behind since 2008.
Right. And I don't think so. We're so far behind now. We're 3, 4, 4.5, depends how you measure, but millions of units behind. And it gets harder and harder for builders to build. You know, labor costs are more expensive, land, entitlement is problems, zoning problems are there. And the biggest problem is builders don't want to build low-end homes because they can't make any money. The input costs have gone way up. Okay, lumber's now down to its pre-COVID price of $400 per 1,000 board feet, down from as much as $1,500 or $1,600 for 1,000 board feet at its worst, when we were all making renovations and putting on a backyard and patio and whatever it is. But generally speaking, the cost of construction has gone up about 40%. So they can't make an entry-level home. So even if you can make the build-up homes and the fancy homes, if you're missing the entry level, you're never going to be building enough homes. So we're going to be stuck with a shortage. And therefore, I think even though the multifam home industry that you so eloquently talked about earlier, Greg, I think it's in the long run a terrific place to be. Even if in the short run there are a number of problems facing it.
Okay. So thank you for that, because I get to ask questions that I've always wanted to ask when I'm in the audience.
Oh, my pleasure.
I bet you didn't know that.
I'm delighted.
Building the new construction piece is always very fascinating.
It is.
To me. So thank you.
I hope the builders can build more. In Canada, actually, the government's trying to give cities incentives, financial incentives, to change their zoning codes and regulations to allow builders to build more homes. That's something we should maybe consider.
Okay. Agents, we're not moving to Canada.
No, this is agreed. Yes.
I just want to put that out there. Okay. So what else? Predictions, crystal ball.
I think one of the most important things to talk about, and Greg, you touched about on this earlier, is population growth. If you look at this graph, this is population growth, percentage fastest growing states. And when you look on the left, I've highlighted two, Idaho and Utah, because they're western states. They're near Colorado, one either contiguous or not far. And there aren't that many. Colorado used to be a very fast growing state. Population growth of roughly 100,000 a year for the whole state. And it's not all going to be in Grand Junction and Durango here. It's primarily in the Front Range. And now population growth is about 20,000 in the Front Range. So what we thought of was normal back in 15, 16, 17, 18 is no longer normal. Colorado's population growth last year was dead average, 0.5%. It was so this urge to move to Colorado may be strong, but the problem is it's expensive. If you look at the states where people are moving to, it's primarily the South.
Okay.
Texas and the South are where people are. They're still coming to Colorado, and that's a lovely thing. But don't, in your mind, update your thinking about where we are. We're not 15, 16. It's more half as much growth, a quarter as much growth. Still decent, still nice, nothing awful, but not what it was.
Okay. Words of wisdom.
Oh, here's a little bit more. I got more.
Oh, okay.
So here's Colorado in 2023. And the darker, these colors are better than those, and those are good colors too. These are bad colors.
Bad colors.
And so the country's mixed, but it's not so great. I think that's the point. And generally speaking, the West is pretty good. The West and the South. Right? The South and the West are pretty decent. The Northeast and the Midwest, much weaker generally. So all else equal, that's a good thing going on in Colorado and the West as well.
Okay. Wonderful.
Yeah.
Words of wisdom.
Happy to offer some good pieces of information.
Yeah, we like good.
No more nagging. There's no nagging going on here.
We're going to be optimistic and we're going to be patient this year, is what I'm hearing.
Yes, patience.
So words of wisdom.
The words of wisdom are, I think it might be good to subscribe to my daily 70-word economic blog. I put out 70 words on economics 5 days a week. No graphs, no ads, no charts, no links, no photos. Easiest way to get it is to take your phone, text the word bow tie. Imagine that. The 5-digit number 66866. I'll then prompt you for an email address, and you hear from me every day. I don't know the future any better than anybody else, but at least I'll give you my take on what's going on now and what I think may happen going forward.
I've been a subscriber for years.
Thank you.
And there is laughs in there.
There are some.
Seriously, if I had you as an economics teacher in college, I probably would have done so much better. I could have probably just passed the first time.
Thank you very much.
Okay. So I want to thank our panelists. Thank you all so much. This was so much fun to be up here with all of you. Do we have questions from the audience or online, Todd? Questions?
Oh, yes, Ray's coming over.
Ray is coming over to the mic.
Good afternoon, everybody. I've got two questions. One for Greg. One being, how do you, with Denver having must have an inspection and how do you see that affecting your business? And do you see that program or something similar going out to other areas in the state?
Yeah, it's a great question. So multifamily had to go through, here in the city and county of Denver, had to go through a registration process by January 1st of last year. Single family had January 1st of this year. When it started out, there wasn't much compliance. That has gone up. They have started assessing fines, some of those kinds of things. As it has turned out, people that are just getting on top of that and getting it done, it is not as onerous as people once thought. And any new process is obviously going to come with some of its challenges. And we did see some of our investors, when that was first announced back in 2020 or 2021, some investors did decide to 1031 exchange out of the city and county of Denver. We saw that go to, I'm looking west towards Jefferson County, went south to Arapahoe County. So is it a factor? Yes. Is it another revenue source? Yes. Some investors were okay with that and some investors not.
Okay. Thank you. And then this one, our governor yesterday said about adding ADUs to the properties and trying to force some of the cities and counties to make the less regulation on adding ADUs or getting duplexes. Do you see economically that is a good thing, getting rid of the regulations and from Big Brother forcing the little cities and counties to incentivize, if you will, adding more density? And this goes mostly to Dr. Elliot.
Absolutely. I'll turn over to Elliot on that one.
Yeah, I am unambiguously a fan of that. I mean, it's going to change the composition of neighborhoods. Parking is going to get harder, and existing homeowners who don't put an ADU in their backyard may not be so happy. But overall, land prices go up. And as land prices rise, using the land more intensively is the appropriate response. And residential construction, commercial properties get torn down and taller buildings get built. And that's what you want to see. Similarly, in neighborhoods with single-family detached houses, all else equal, you'd like to see them adapt to the new pricing structure that's out there. If your land is suddenly worth $200,000 or $300,000 or $400,000, whereas worth $100,000 before, put on an ADU is a great solution to the problem. So I'm encouraged. I'm enthusiastic. That said, I'm also aware that it's not a silver bullet. You're not going to get 100,000 units out of this process. But if you do this and you do a whole bunch of other things together, that collectively can do a lot of good. But don't think this is going to solve the problem single-handedly.
Thank you. And another question that just popped into my head along with that, there's been talk of converting some of the high-rise office buildings to residential and making them either mid-range or affordable. Do you see that as a good thing, or slow term, little bit might be okay, but I think down the road that might be a little bit of a problem when we get our economy back rolling and need the office space?
Well, I'm going to just make a quick comment and say, yeah, I'm generally enthusiastic when markets are able to function. And if the price of the property comes down enough that it makes it economically viable, yeah, it should happen. That said, I'm going to pass it on to you because you're the multifam expert.
Yeah.
It's a great question. We were actually chatting about that a bit because there's a couple of buildings in downtown Denver that are in receivership, and that's part of what they have talked about is possibly converting some of those. The challenge that you run into is, number one, what floors are those? Did those units become available on? And who is going into those floors? Like, for instance, we'll talk about the Wells Fargo, the bank building downtown, right? So the cash register building. So in order for that to happen, they have multiple floors. They have, city council has brainstormed ideas. The private sector has brainstormed ideas to try to figure out, how do we leverage these floors? We have availability. What you don't have is you don't have the right plumbing. You don't have the right systems. You've got to put in kitchens and more restrooms and some of that. That's becoming problematic. And so there's not as much development on that is actually taking place as has been talked about, at least thus far.
Okay, thank you.
Great questions.
I think we do have a couple questions in the chat.
Yes, we do. Kevin Sanchez, this is going to be for Greg. What suggestions do you have for investors to mitigate vacancy rates if they have rentals currently?
That's a great question. So we talk with our leasing team, and we see this all throughout the market. There's only a certain number of levers that you can pull in a scenario like that. So if you look at the location of a property, that is always an important factor. Exactly the same home here in the city and county of Denver will rent at a different price as the exact same home will rent in Highlands Ranch, for instance. So the condition, the location, you obviously can't change the location. You can change the lever on the condition. So we're watching a lot of our landlords take this opportunity to upgrade paint, upgrade flooring, upgrade fixtures, some of those kinds of things. That will always help from a rental standpoint. But then ultimately, the biggest lever that you have is the price point. So in a marketplace where you have 2 to 2.5 times the inventory than we would normally have, the price point is absolutely the biggest piece, which is why we're beginning to see rental rates soften. Not atypical this time of year that we see it soften a little bit, but it's a little bit more than we would see seasonally. So be very, very astute and even borderline aggressive on the price point. That'd be my encouragement.
Fantastic. Another one for Greg. This is Sharon James coming in with pet deposits. If your contract was before 2024, can you still hold higher pet deposit as more than, it looks like 1.5% monthly rent? And it goes on to ask, and more than $300 pet deposit.
Yeah, so it's a great question. So I will clarify this as all of us as real estate agents have to do. We are not allowed to give legal advice. So, and I don't want to borderline on that too much. Anyhow, that particular piece, any leases that went in place before January 1 of 2024 don't apply to that. But upon renewal and or a new lease, you'll have to move into those new guidelines.
Okay, another one for Greg from Mark Holmes. Is there any regulation on just charging X as a security deposit?
So there is a regulation. So you can only, the maximum in the state of Colorado is you can only charge 2 times the rent for a security deposit. So that guideline used to not be in place, but that is now in place. So you could do something more than that prior. Anything January 1st moving forward, it's got to be 2X as your cap. Great questions.
Popular, Greg.
Honored by the questions.
So that is just a reminder to everyone that Greg is an amazing wealth of information
Tammy.
when it comes to leasing and rentals and investors. If you have a client that's looking to become an investor or has a property that hasn't sold that they're looking at leasing, Greg is our guy. He's the guy with all the rules and the regulations and the right forms and all of that. So please refer those people right to Greg.
Thank you.
It's always a pleasure having that partnership with you. And
Likewise, and thank you very much.
yes. Any more questions from the studio audience? Okay, I do have a couple of questions. So this is probably, don't be afraid, it's okay. This is probably a combination question for Amanda and for Lane.
Yes, okay.
Days on market. In market overall and then in the luxury space.
What about?
What is the average days on market right now? Or what did we see trending in 2023?
Yeah, I mean, they were close to about 30, depending on what segment you were in. But that varied a lot. We had a segment of the market that went under contract still within the first week with multiple offers, and then we had homes that sat on the market for 100 plus days. Mm-hmm. So it was pretty spotty, and I think as agents, it's great to have kind of that median ballpark of like what we're looking at, but you've got to look specifically in that neighborhood and your particular property because it varies so much, and being able to set your seller's expectations is going to be block by block.
Sure. And I think that you hit it, sellers' expectations. Yeah. You know, because sellers still have that mindset of 21 where, you know, it was hours, like we counted days on market in hours. Yes.
So I set that for my budget.
Yeah. Okay. True confession. Okay. True confession.
We spend some time setting agent expectations as well. It trickles down from there. But I would say that, and Amanda is certainly an expert in this area too. What we really saw in the luxury space is a big difference, I think, between $1 million and $1.5 million and then $2 million and above. And so we might be competitive with what's happening under $1 million with 30 days on market. But once you get into the $2 million plus, it's not uncommon to see 60 or 90 days. But let's not forget, this is a sector of our housing market that in years past has seen an entire year of inventory. So patience has really been part of selling luxury real estate for a long time. Dare I say normal again? But I think what we're doing is we're getting back to some of the basics in all price points, but particularly in that luxury space, the higher the price, the longer it's going to take. And setting those expectations is key. Yeah.
Okay. Wonderful. Wonderful. Elliot, Amanda?
Do we have time to talk about price?
Sure. Of course.
So I think what's a little bit deceptive in the data for home pricing is that we're looking at the sale price and not net to seller. And during the hot pandemic years, sellers could just say whatever they wanted and people would beg to pay them that much money. But now we are seeing a lot of adjustment. Maybe the home sold for 100% of list price, but there was $40,000 in concessions for a rate buy down. Or there was a new roof. I mean, I had a buyer this summer that we ended up with about $90,000 worth of concessions and work that was done to the home prior to closing that never showed up in the MLS because it was work done outside of monetary tracking within the contract. And so while prices have stayed pretty flat, the net to seller is not. And we don't track that in any really meaningful way. And so when you're pricing homes, we can go in and tell our sellers, yes, pricing is flat, but that's what we're all seeing. It's not necessarily the reality when you get into the specifics of each particular property. So when you're looking at comps, you need to be looking for those $40,000, $50,000 rate buy down concessions that are in there and just setting those expectations of net to seller versus sale price.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing that. That's okay. Elliot, last words of wisdom. I'm just going to keep coming back for words of wisdom.
Last words of wisdom.
Last words of wisdom.
Being humble. We all make projections. We all make forecasts, and invariably they're almost always wrong. You have to have a belief in a process that your rates are going to come down or whatever's going to happen is happen. But you have to be flexible enough to say, wow, I don't think my forecast is coming through. I have to reassess. You can't stay hard to your forecast just because you, in your bones, believe it. The market's always right. The market won't make mistakes. The market makes fools out of us. But we have to look at the market and pay attention to what it's saying and try and understand where we've gone wrong, or is the market just temporarily going on some weird place that's going to come back or not? But being flexible, being humble, and being open to adjusting your beliefs is critically important.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And thanks again to our amazing panelists for joining us this afternoon. A ton of little nuggets in there. Thank you for joining us, whether you're at a watch party or at your office or at home. Appreciate you taking the time to be here with us this afternoon. Join Elliot for the National Economic Summit on January 29th. You should all have that information in your email. So thank you for that. Again, thanks for everything that you do. 2024 is going to be an amazing year. You heard it right here from Elliot. It's going to be did you say good or great?
I said better.
Okay.
And not nagging.
It's going to be a great year. Thanks so much. And we will see you at the next Mile High View. Have an amazing day. Thank you, guys.
Yay.
Thank you.